Feeling drained from office politics and worn out by workplace dynamics, my husband Fred was at his wits' end. Wanting the best for him, I agreed when he suggested becoming a stay-at-home husband. But then, I found out he was betraying me, exploiting his new role at home. He thinks I won't notice because I'm always busy with work, he said. And I caught him embracing another woman. Fury boiled within me, and I vowed to get my revenge. I'm Martha, a 28-year-old office worker. Fred and I have been married for 3 years, and I'm the primary breadwinner for our household. When we first got married, both of us had jobs, but my husband reached his limit with office politics and the work environment and decided to quit. He expressed a desire to become a stay-at-home dad, which threw me off a bit initially. When my husband first brought up the idea of becoming a stay-at-home dad, I was a bit puzzled, but I quickly remembered that I had always been the higher earner between the two of us. Plus, the toll his work was taking on his mental health became clear. Putting all that together, I concluded that this arrangement was what suited us best as a couple. However, even though couples like us are becoming more common, it's still not the norm, especially for people of our parents' generation. This setup might be hard to believe. My in-laws, who are close neighbors and generally good to us, also found it difficult to understand at first. Are you sure about this, Martha? Regardless of how much you earn, it's a lot to shoulder, my mother-in-law cautioned. My father-in-law added,
Maybe I'm old-fashioned, but what about when you decide to have kids? And can Fred even manage household chores? Have you thought about that?
They were concerned about our future, and their words made sense. They weren't worried about appearances. They genuinely cared about us. I felt thankful for that, recognizing once again how fortunate I was to marry into such a caring family. We understand your concerns, I said, and we want to share our plans to ease your minds. I carefully addressed each concern and question raised by my in-laws. For worries about income, I showed them my earnings. Regarding pregnancy and childbirth, I explained the benefits from my company. I emphasized how my workplace is women-friendly, mentioning paid family leave among other things. Luckily, the company I work for offers excellent benefits for women, making family leave a stress-free option. As for Frederick's lack of domestic skills, I said I'd teach him and we'd figure it out. Once I'd covered these details, my mother-in-law said, I see you and Frederick have thought things through. If you're this prepared for the future, I have no complaints. What about you, dear? My father-in-law nodded.
Comparing our generation to today's youth isn't fair. If you two are satisfied and have few concerns, it's not our place to intervene. Martha, please continue to look after Frederick.
My husband's bear-like father, as people call him, made this polite request. He's an imposing figure, but I know he's kind-hearted. So it was a relief and a blessing that both my mother-in-law and father-in-law understood. However, they had one condition. In exchange for our approval, not that it's a big deal, mind you, please let me teach Frederick housekeeping tasks. We don't want to burden you any further, Martha. Honestly, I was thrilled when my mother-in-law offered to teach my husband how to do housework. With my job taking up most of my time, I knew I couldn't commit to teaching him myself. I'm not even that great at housework to begin with. My mother-in-law, on the other hand, has years of experience as a housewife. It eased my worries about both the quality of the teaching and the time commitment.
So, do you think you could let us handle this? It would put our minds at ease, too, knowing it would lighten your load.
My father-in-law seemed to be considerate, not wanting me to worry too much. He wholeheartedly agreed with my mother-in-law's suggestion. Just by that, I could tell how much both of them genuinely cared for us. Feeling warmth from their kindness, my husband and I decided to lean on them a bit. After that, my mother-in-law started visiting, almost daily, teaching my husband the ropes around the house. Since he had declared he wanted to be a stay-at-home husband, He was keen on learning from her, and she was more than happy to teach him everything she knew.
Today, I made a creamy salmon dish. How's the taste?
It's delicious as always, thank you. By the time 6 months had passed, my husband was fully capable of handling all the household chores, even cooking better meals than me. His attention to detail in all tasks was impeccable, making it impossible for me to brag about how I used to be the one managing the home. In fact, me trying to help only seemed to slow him down, so now I practically have no role when it comes to household chores. Feeling a bit defeated is the price I pay for having such a competent husband. But the bright side is, since my husband took over, my mother-in-law's visits have become less frequent, and our life is more fulfilling than before. She's still a bit intrusive, saying things like, "We made too much dinner. Why don't you two have some?" They come by regularly to check on us. We were always close with my in-laws, but I think our relationship has improved even more since my husband became a stay-at-home dad. My career has also taken off, thanks to my husband's support. My performance is better than ever. In hindsight, I feel a bit guilty for my husband, who used to work so hard, but we're a happier family now, and that's what matters. One day, thanks to my husband's support, I had to go on a business trip. The destination is quite far from where we live, and the business trip lasts for about a month. Since getting married, this is the first time I will be away from my husband and from home for such an extended period. So I had my own little anxieties. "I have to leave tomorrow. Are you sure you'll be okay? Don't eat junk food while I'm away." Even though I know he's more than capable, old memories of him not being able to do anything make me worry. With a wry smile, he says, "I'm not a child. While you're away, I'll take care of the house. Just focus on your work and do your best." Hearing this, I felt even more reliant on him. I find myself relying on my husband more than ever. It's simple, but just that realization alone blows away my earlier anxieties. And the next morning, I head off to my business trip with a renewed spirit. While busy with work at the location, I still make sure to call my husband at the end of the day to catch up and share how things are going for each of us. Today, this happened. Yesterday, I met that person. These everyday conversations helped heal my work weariness. Is that you, Phil? I'm Frederick's wife. Thank you for everything you did for us. During a business trip, I unexpectedly run into someone I know. This person is Phil, my husband's former boss. He's the one who supported my husband through rough times at work, someone my husband looked up to and respected a lot. My husband even brought him to our house more than once. Turns out, after my husband left his job, Phil also resigned due to family issues and had joined the company I was currently dealing with on my trip. Today, he was here to help with the project I was managing. We catch up and share what's been going on in our lives. After a long conversation, Phil says, "It's really a shame about Frederick. Although he was at fault, it's just sad." I guess he's talking about my husband's resignation. But what does he mean by he was at fault? From Frederick, I'd only heard about difficult work relationships and issues with the company structure. I'd never heard anything suggesting Frederick himself was problematic. So Phil's comment raises some questions for me. Noticing my confusion, Phil realizes I don't know the full story. "You didn't hear about it? Oh, it's terrible," he says, covering his face with his hands. Hearing this, I realize that work can wait. I quickly wrap up the project, give my bosses an overview, and finish handing over my responsibilities at the trip location. I'm surprised at my own efficiency as I finish all my tasks and rush back home. The goal is to confront my lying husband. And if what I heard from Phil is true, it's to catch evidence of whatever may be happening right at this moment. I cut my business trip short and get on a plane right away. As soon as I arrive at the airport, I hail a cab. Throughout this, the only feelings I have are of disappointment and anger towards my husband's betrayal. With those emotions, I arrive home, making sure to be as quiet as possible as I enter the house. I can't see my husband in the living room. I have plenty I want to say and do, but first, let's find out where he is. Just so you know, it's totally fine doing this at home, right?
Ah, she won't be back from her business trip for a while, so it's all good.
I hear my husband's laughter following these words. Suppressing the urge to burst into the room in anger, I quietly step outside to avoid being noticed by my husband. I pull out my cell phone and dial. Mother-in-law, I'm sorry for the urgency. Can you come over right now? I explain the situation over the phone to my mother-in-law, who agrees to come immediately. It's a short walk from my in-laws' house, just about 10 minutes. Before long, my mother-in-law shows up, bringing my father-in-law along after hearing the story. We should go inside now. They should still be in there. I take the visibly furious pair back into my home. Our target is the shower room, where voices of a man and woman still mingle. As we approach, my father-in-law grimaces at the sound from the shower room. My mother-in-law looks like she's about to explode, her face distorted with outrage. I make eye contact with the two of them and then fling open the shower room door. The sudden action startles the people inside, but I couldn't care less. Seeing our faces, the two inside look dumbstruck. Sit down on the floor now. Frederick, explain yourself right away. My husband tries to stammer out a pointless excuse, but I'm not in the mood for his nonsense, so I shoot him a glare that silences him. Under the force of my anger, the two awkwardly step out, wrapping themselves only in towels and sitting on the floor. My husband looks up at me cautiously, and I speak. So, what's going on here? What have you been doing while I've been busy on business trips? As I demand answers, my husband's shoulders shudder. His face turns pale as he blurts out.
This isn't what it looks like. She's just a friend. I lent her the shower. That's all, I swear.
His excuses are pathetic. Why do you have to take a shower together if you're just lending the shower? And why did she leave her clothes scattered in the living room of all places? He keeps coming up with all kinds of absurd excuses. I don't want to hear any more excuses. I heard everything from Phil. You know, you left your last job because your affair got exposed, didn't you? I cut off my husband's ridiculous excuses and confront him with the real reason he left his job. What Phil had told me was so shocking, it was more than enough to push my anger over the edge. Choosing to become a stay-at-home husband after retirement was just to secure time for an affair with this woman. When I think about it, it makes me feel pathetic. Of course, people will distance themselves from you. You hit on your subordinate while you have a wife. Did you think you could get away with it if you kept it a secret from me? He keeps lying about the reason for his resignation and won't end the affair as long as he thinks he won't get caught. And on top of it, he's enjoying his ongoing affair with the money I've been making. This is unacceptable, and I have no intention of forgiving him.
Well, it was a small mistake. I still love you more than anyone. I don't care about her. I'll break up with her right away if you say so.
The woman who had been cowering behind my husband lifts her face at this sudden betrayal. Her face, pale just moments ago, is now flushed red. Unaware of my incredulous gaze, my husband continues speaking. My husband doesn't notice and continues.
This is just a fling. You're the only one that matters to me, Martha.
This is what people mean by pathetic. He declares his love for me while standing there only in a towel, with his affair partner right beside him. The disgust is overwhelming. The tears start to come when I think about having married this guy. Even my in-laws behind me seemed to agree. We were quiet, because we thought Martha should be the one to speak first. But as your mother, I am so ashamed, my mother-in-law says, stepping forward. The mother-in-law who steps forward in front of me starts talking, her face tinged with a sort of pathetic look. Her face is a mixture of anger and pity. Mixed in are various other emotions, making it impossible to discern her true feelings. Why haven't you apologized yet? You betrayed Martha, didn't you? Made her sad, didn't you? Shouldn't you apologize from the heart, no matter how many times it takes? And there, scattered about, are clothes clearly not mine. Phil was right, I realize. You can't keep lying and making excuses. My father-in-law standing behind my mother-in-law doesn't say a word, but his face shows he agrees. Finally, my husband seems to realize his mistake. I'm really sorry, he blurts out. But that doesn't mean I have to forgive him. Give me your phones. I'm collecting all evidence of your affair, I tell him. I take their phones and document all the evidence. There are too many pictures and messages proving their relationship. That's enough evidence and excuses. Take her and leave right now. I'm divorcing you, and I never want to see your face again. I tell him, now that I have all I need. But this poses a problem for him. Even if I sort out the alimony payments during the divorce, being kicked out of the house while being a stay-at-home husband would be unbearable. Especially now my in-laws know about this situation. Given their attitude, it'll be hard to go back to my parents' house after leaving here. Wait a minute. I've been doing my share of housework too, you know. And now you're talking about divorce and kicking me out? Give me a break. Can we please try again? My husband pleads, throwing away his pride. Just as I'm finding him annoying, my father-in-law makes his move. What you've done is a betrayal to Martha and to us. Stop causing her more trouble. With that, father-in-law grabs my husband by the collar. Dad, what are you doing? That hurts. My husband, whom I've described as bear-like, is shrieking as he's held by father-in-law's large frame. Father-in-law keeps a tight grip on his son, grabbing his discarded clothes from the ground as well. He then drags him to the front door and unceremoniously tosses him outside. This is the last straw. Never show your face in front of Martha or us again. Next time won't be so easy for you. A declaration that signifies he's disowned by the family. My husband slumps in defeat at the front doorstep. Then my father-in-law quickly tells the mistress to get dressed, and she's thrown out as well. Wait, seriously, please forgive me, Dad, Mom, Martha. My husband pleads, in nothing but a towel around his waist, but no one is there to listen. You should have been finding a new job instead of having fun in the shower. Goodbye. I say just that, and then close the front door, locking it behind me. I put all my emotions into turning that key, hoping I'll never have to see my husband's face again. Despite all this, my husband kept saying, I don't want a divorce. But my furious in-laws made him sign the divorce papers, and we are now officially separated. He abandoned his mistress during the shower incident, so they broke up too. Of course, I claimed alimony during the divorce trial. Though we did have to divide our assets, the amount I received as a settlement in the divorce court was fairly substantial, considering the length of his affair and the emotional toll it took on me. As a result, my husband had to pay out of the assets we divided, leading him to a pretty tough financial situation. It goes without saying that his parents severed all ties with him. Now he's jobless, familyless, and broke. Pushed out into the world all alone. As for Catherine, rumors of her affair have spread, causing her to lose her standing at work. My husband is now juggling multiple part-time jobs just to scrape by. As for me, the experience has been liberating in many ways and allowed me to focus more on my career. As a result, I've achieved significant milestones and moved up the corporate ladder at an unusually fast pace for my age. I still have a lot to learn, but I'm living fulfilling days. Although I've lost any formal relationship with my in-laws due to the divorce, we still keep in touch. We may have lost the legal bonds of family, but the emotional connection remains. To me, they're like a second set of parents, and I plan to cherish this relationship as I move forward in life.